Just what's on your mind, what you drinking? Is that whiskey?
LA, what is up? This is Rey Javier coming at you with another episode of the Showtime Forum podcast. And with me once again is Mr. Javier Hernandez, a.k.a. Golden Knight. What is going on, Javi?
It's another beautiful day in LA.
Oh, yeah, man. A beautiful, cloudy day, it seems like every time we record, at least. And today we got a special guest, actually. You can catch him on Silver Screen and Roll. He's the editor-in-chief at Lakers SBN, Mr. Harrison Faigen. How you doing, Harrison?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for jumping on. We appreciate that.
I'm happy to do it anytime.
Yeah, man, and congratulations on the recent graduation, right? What, you graduated from Fullerton, I believe?
Yeah, Cal State Fullerton. I finally finished up there as the world's oldest college student, and I am moved up to Hawthorne, and I'm ready to cover the Lakers, full time. So make a real go of this.
Oh, for sure, man. So I'll catch you over there. My kids actually go to school right down the street from the facility, so.
I think I know which school you're talking about. I think I've driven by that.
I'll catch you over there, man. I'm gonna expect you to be camping outside the facilities, right?
Yes, that is actually what a beat reporter does. Is like, people don't know this, but we set up tents out there and we just hang out until they allow us in for practice. They never give us any heads up. We just have to wait for them to open the gates, and then we just wander in. It's great.
Yeah, I've tried buzzing myself in through security a couple times, and it never works for some.
I was gonna say that didn't go well, I would imagine.
No, never does. But at least they know me now. At least I've gotten a routine down with the security guards now, where they just, as soon as they see me, they just buzz towards me and just tell me no.
They don't tase you as hard anymore.
No.
You know, both of you have probably been there more than Magic. I can probably say that.
Who's that? Magic? Who's that?
I'm not going to say that.
Is Magic here today? Where's Magic?
Oh, yeah, no. Is Rob? Where's Rob at? Before we get into everything, I wanna go ahead and throw a shout out to Pete Zayas, though. For those who follow Pete, he had a little bit of health issues recently, but now it looks like he's recovered and he's back at it. So I just wanted to, make sure that we send our Showtime blessings his way. I know you work pretty closely with him, Harrison, so if you could pass along that message, that'd be great.
Yeah, of course. I mean, despite my best efforts, he has come back to work already because that's just who he is. So he wants to get content out for the fans. And, Lakers fans, I think most of them realize kind of how lucky they are to have someone like Pete covering the team. But, for those of you that don't, it's like having that level of video analysis on a consistent basis is like, that is not the case across all 30 NBA teams. And so we are very lucky to have him working with us at Silver Screen and Roll. And Lakers fans are very lucky to have him covering the team.
Oh, definitely. And kind of touching on the sideline reporting, the beat writers and all that stuff that you were talking about earlier. There was an interesting piece that came out today with Jennifer Hale, who's a Fox Sports NBA sideline reporter, where she kind of touched a little bit on Anthony Davis. And I'll just kind of read the tweet here. But pretty much some of the quotes that she was saying, she mentioned the fact that she loves Anthony Davis. She kind of, she's grown up she's had the ability to see him blossom, I guess, in front of her eyes as she's been covering the team. But she said, I love Anthony Davis. His family is practically like family to me. I've been shocked at his behavior from the time he hired Rich Paul. You've seen a marked change in his behavior. Wearing a That's All Folks t-shirt to the last game, that's not Anthony. And that's kind of paraphrasing some of the things she said. But, honestly, for me, as soon as I kind of heard it, it sparked something immediately in me. It sparked something immediately in me to the point where I just I'm not an Anthony Davis guy per se, but I kind of had to I felt like I kind of had to defend him because, one, the Pelicans have had 7 years to do something with Anthony Davis, man. And now at this point, now that Anthony Davis is trying to fly the coop, now they want to sit here and they want to push this narrative where they're the victims. Honestly, in my opinion, they're not the victims. They had 7 years of this world-class talent, and they did nothing with it.
So many chances. So many.
And
one of the things that did you see Alvin Gentry too when he was saying that AD is a good kid but maybe got some bad advice? Like, yeah. Who is telling these guys that AD doesn't have a mind of his own? Like, he's trying to search for something more, get out of the Pelicans kind of, pretty much their losing kind of mentality that they've had for the past years. And I just think it's kind of unfair how everybody thinks, it's Clutch and it's LeBron and Rich Paul that are doing this, and maybe AD just wants to change.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line here is that Rich Paul and Clutch work for Anthony Davis. They were hired, and shortly thereafter, this trade demand thing happened. And, agents don't just go around demanding trades without their client signing off on it, especially not a client as powerful as Anthony Davis. And I think, Ray, you actually touched on it. Like, I think the reason this narrative exists is because it's very convenient and it absolves the Pelicans of all blame. And it just is like, well, Anthony Davis is this good kid and he would have stuck it out here and been our franchise star if only Big Bad Clutch hadn't come in and started whispering all these mean things in his ear about us and wanted to get him to LA to play with LeBron. Like, yes, Rich Paul and LeBron have known each other since I think LeBron was 17 or 18 in like high school or shortly thereafter. And yes, they work together. But Rich Paul, he works for LeBron, but he doesn't only work for LeBron. He's LeBron's agent, and they're probably closer than most agents and clients. But Rich Paul is going to have a lot of years, presumably, where LeBron is not his only client remaining if he wants to remain an NBA agent, because LeBron isn't going to play forever. He's got maybe 4 years left max, like I think the way things are going. And if Rich Paul wants to continue working on the agent side, he can't just have this perception that he's going around and just trying to steer guys to his client or doing what's best for LeBron at the expense of his other clients. Long story short, like, if they're doing this, it's because Anthony Davis at the very least has signed off on it. And so to me, like, you can say, sure, that you can even say maybe he got bad advice if you think that the advice was bad, but to act like he was just like swayed and like he has no control over this, if he didn't like the way that they were going about it, he could let Rich Paul go, like that's the bottom line.
Yeah, he's a grown man. They're sitting here acting like Anthony Davis is just like he's voiceless in this entire thing. He actually hired Rich Paul. Rich Paul works for him. That's at least the last time I checked. I don't know if it works the opposite way, maybe on the inside. I don't know. I'm not an inside guy, I guess. But I mean, I just think the fact that the Pelicans did not learn their lesson from the whole CP3 fiasco is just more telling than anything else. I mean, they've gone through this before. They had an all-star caliber guy who just pretty much said, hey, you know what? You guys can't fulfill what I need, and I'm just going to move on.
Yeah, I mean, hiring David Griffin to me would imply that they've at least learned something from all of this. So maybe they finally have learned the lesson now, and they're going to put a real person in charge of basketball operations and give them real resources and real power, and finally stop having the Pelicans be kind of their second banana team behind the Saints. But I mean, like, if I'm Anthony Davis, why am I going to buy into that? I've already given you 7 years of my career. Like, it's time for me to do what I want to do. And again, like, you can disagree with the advice that he's getting. You can think that LA isn't the best situation for him. That's fine if you disagree with all that. But I don't know, just like implying that he's agency-less in this is, I don't know. I don't really like the implication of that.
Right. I think a lot of that comes just from him wanting to go to the Lakers, too. That's something that was touched on, and everybody in the league right now, we know all the other 29 teams don't like the Lakers. If Anthony Davis was requesting a trade, let's say, to the Charlotte Hornets, it wouldn't be this big of a deal. I mean, it's because it's LA and it's because of what's going on. LeBron's there, clutch. That's why it's becoming a big deal. But truly, a lot of players are leaving lately. It's not like everybody's staying to one team. I mean, LeBron's left, a couple times, different teams. KD's left. Kyrie wasn't happy in Boston. And these things happen, but for some reason, when it's the Lakers, it's kind of a little bit extra there.
Oh, of course. And it's like a perfect storm of hate. You got the Lakers, you got LeBron, and you got Clutch. And on top of that, you're losing your best player. There's no reason for – I just think the fact that – especially that comment that Alvin Gentry made today, there was a lot of – I don't want to say anger in it, but you could tell he was biting his lip for the majority of that, right? That, along with this story, not the story, but the interview that Jen Hale did today, just kind of has that narrative where they're just it's all about bashing Clutch at this point, And I think maybe that might be because maybe there's something already set in stone, maybe behind the scenes that. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something there that they don't like, and it might be the fact that maybe they're coming to realize that they're going to have to bend to the Lakers' will and to Clutch's will and to LeBron's will, I guess, if you really want to go that far.
Yeah, I mean, that might be part of it. I think part of it is like, look, I feel like a lot of the times that we as the media can read too much into interactions that we have with players that are very inherently very controlled and all of that stuff. Like, we're talking to them in like controlled settings for a pretty set amount of time. It's not that long. And, there are pleasantries and stuff, but it's like, we don't really know them. Not really. It's not like you're like close friends with them. You can be friendly with them. You have your ones that you know better than others. But like, I don't know. I always try to stay away from the, like, I know this person person really well, because it's like, how well do we know our coworkers? And that's essentially what they are. Is like we don't work for the same company, but you see them on a work basis. It's a work thing. Like, you don't know them that well. And so my point basically being that, sure, Anthony Davis could have been pleasant to you for 7 years, and you could never see him saying, like, this is what I want now. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get what I want. But, like, if his mind changes and he wants to get out of that situation, like, you're not going to necessarily see that coming if you're just going off of, like, we did interviews over 7 years, or we talked, obviously I'm sure that they talked outside of interviews. She's the Pelicans sideline reporter, so they travel with the team. I'm sure that they had plenty of interactions, but it's just like, I don't know. I just always try to not read too much into that stuff, because you never really know anyone.
No, and I think he's pretty nice, because, he's giving them a heads up to be able to try to acquire something in return for him walking. Because if he really wanted to be an a-hole, he could have just not said anything, right? And then once his contract is up, he could have just walked and left them completely stranded. These things where these teams want to turn these players into villain because they're trying to take control of their career it's crazy to me, because you don't see that in just in normal day-to-day businesses. If I want to go to join a different business and with a better opportunity, for the most part, my coworkers and my employer is going to support me. At least my current employer will. But like I said, AD could have easily just walked away, but he didn't. So maybe you could say whatever you want about him, but this is obviously a smear campaign, in my opinion.
Well, the one part of that I will disagree with is, he did have at least a year and a half left on his contract when he told them this, and very publicly made it clear to the rest of the league. And then, depending on who you believe about what, Clutch was trying to undermine these other teams, leverage and stuff, so the Lakers wouldn't have to offer as much. Like, I don't want to sit here and act like they did the Pelicans a favor by the way that they went about things. I just don't think that I don't think that this is evidence that, like, Anthony Davis is being led astray or anything like that. Ultimately, at the end of the day, these people work for him. And, maybe he's getting bad advice, or you don't agree with the advice that he's getting, but he is signing off on all of this stuff.
Of course. And if his main goal is to get maybe to grow his brand by coming to LA or wherever he goes, I think Clutch has done a pretty good job since he signed with them, because he's been in the news, I think, every single day since that news came out, right? We've definitely heard about him for the past 6 months. We've heard more from him in the past 6 months than I think we've heard in the past 7 years from Anthony Davis.
The Pelicans can't be too upset, because it's not like they're not getting, a good package in return from the Lakers. If you want to touch a little bit on that, if you're talking about Kuzma, Lonzo, Ingram, number 4 pick, possibly other pieces, it's not like they're getting a terrible deal, so they can't be too upset about that.
Well, and especially when you look at what else is out there. I maintained at the time, like, the reason that when I was kind of looking at the trade deadline and going into it, and I'm not sure how you guys felt about this, but I thought the deal would get done then, because I'm like, nobody else is offering this many assets. Like, the Lakers' offer was borderline, like, bad for themselves at the deadline. Like, they were probably giving up too much, because Magic just kept being like, oh, you're not taking my calls, let me throw another asset at you, and another one, and another one. Okay, take the whole team. Okay, take all of our draft picks. Like, the Pelicans should have taken that, but not taking that then was spite, and that was stupid. I don't know that the Lakers are going to offer as much now, but regardless, it's we've talked about this on the Silver Screen Roll podcast on the site. Like, what other team is offering as much as they're offering right now? Like, I don't know. To me, it's weird when people are like, oh, well, the Nets can get involved. And it's like, really? The Nets?
Yeah, I don't
think
so.
Like, unless the Lakers are massively lowballing the Pelicans, how is what the Nets have better than what the Lakers are offering? Like, the Knicks, it's like it's trade deadline catfishing. Like, they're like, oh, we have all these first round picks, but it's actually like Frank Ntilikina and what's the other rookies? Kevin Knox.
Yeah, like Mitchell Robinson. Good, but it's not.
And like Mitchell Robinson's nice, but right. Yeah. Like, this stuff is not as proven or as promising as what the Lakers are. Not. Yeah. Even before the number 4 pick. And so, I don't know. I think the Lakers have the best offer. I do think this will get done before the NBA draft, despite anyone being upset about it.
Ray's not going to like this, but I was actually listening to I can see his face already. I was listening to the Locked On Lakers podcast. Anthony Irwin said something that struck me as something that it just kind of like blew my mind. He said, okay, maybe we really like Lonzo, we really like Kuzma, we really like Ingram, but is any of those players, let's say if you offer the Pelicans 2 of those players and they say, okay, give us 1 more of those players and AD's yours, are we going to let Lonzo Ball possibly be the deciding factor in us getting AD? I don't think so, man. I think we pull the trigger.
That's tough. Yeah, that's tough. Like I've said it several times, man. I mean, if we could keep one of these guys, that is the picture perfect scenario for us. If any of the 3,
I wish.
Obviously, I love Lonzo, I love Bi. I love them all like they're all my children. You can't really love them more than the other. But at this point, man, after giving them that Godfather offer, there's no way we can literally just go back and give them the same offer. There's got to be some kind of discipline, and I think a lot of it is fear based, especially with our fan base. As because if we don't get Anthony Davis, they feel like the world is crumbling down on us. When honestly, last season just came down to injuries. It came down to injuries. If we sign a nice free agent, Jimmy Butler, Kyrie Irving, whoever it is, even a Kemba Walker, that's a gigantic upgrade to add to our previous roster.
And that's what Rob Pelinka, you have to think, is going to be telling, as long as they're approaching these negotiations like normal people, which is not how they handled the trade deadline. So, like, I don't want to assume anything at this point. But, like, as long as – you would assume that Rob Pelinka is going to them, and he's saying all of those things. We could sign a free agent. We don't know. We can just wait for him. Like, we're trying to give you something now, but now it's only a year instead of a year and a half that we'd be getting extra. So that's worth a little bit less assets and things like that. And David Griffin may say, like, well, I have these other suitors, and they're going to play the leverage game with each other, and that, like, because that's how negotiations work, and they're going to go back and forth. But like, to get back to the, I think that the Lakers would be best off keeping Lonzo Ball out of all the young core, and not just because I personally view him as most promising, but I also think that he would be the best fit on a team like this, because he does so many things outside of scoring. But like, ultimately, they may not have to offer all of that stuff, but you don't let it come down. This is why you get all of these assets, is so that you hope that either one of them turns into an Anthony Davis, or you can flip them for an Anthony Davis. This is how rebuilding works. And I know that everyone gets attached to these guys. That's fandom. That it's not like you called them your children, but that's how it goes. Like, we've watched these guys grow up for 3 years. Everyone gets attached to them. But ultimately, if you're trying to win titles, like, you need players like Anthony Davis, and maybe Lonzo or Ingram or even Kuz develop into something like that and take these kind of unforeseeable leaps forward, because you never know ultimately which one of these guys are going to jump that far forward or take unexpected jumps. But like, Anthony Davis is that right now, and it lines up with LeBron, and he's still only 26. He can bridge the gap into that next era once LeBron leaves. Yeah,
no, for sure. So leading with that, there was a Chris Haynes put out a interesting comment where he was pretty much saying that, I'm going to paraphrase it, but he was pretty much saying that if the Lakers have to trade the entire young core to get Anthony Davis, they better. And to me, I mean, obviously, most people understand and know that Chris Haynes has a clutch source and a clutch connection, right? So how much of that is really clutch is kind of sending a message to the Lakers? There have been those reports that LeBron supposedly is peeved off, could be peeved off to the point where he might demand an out if we can't land a big free agent, which I think is
hold on. I want to address that real quick. That was Bill Plaschke writing in a column saying that Bill Plaschke, again, like, all due respect for him and what he's accomplished in his career, he's a phenomenal writer. If you read his long form stuff, and it's just like, he's a columnist now. He's not necessarily a newsbreaker, and he, like, the way that it was phrased was LeBron James could demand out. If anyone could do anything,
right?
Like, LeBron could dress as Pennywise and show up to every game in that great Halloween costume from a few years ago, just to emphasize that he felt that the Lakers were clowns for not getting a free agent. He could do anything.
Saying could is much more different than will. He could do anything. He could do this. He could do that, but he's not going to do it. I mean, he just came to L.A. He's got, Bronny in high school, pairing up with, D-Wade's son as well. He's got, all these media things going on behind the scenes. I don't think he's going to ask for a trade. Come on, let's. That's silly. Come on.
I think that would be a little damaging. I mean, I don't know how much damage you can really cause LeBron's brand at this point, but I would think that's a little bit damaging to his brand if he were to just pretty much. I would look at his throw a fit and just say, hey, I'm out of here. After sitting here and saying he was committed and he's here for the long haul and he's here for the young guys and whatnot. He'll take a hit. How much of a hit, I don't know. It's probably going to be a chip on his brand, if anything, but I wasn't the biggest LeBron fan coming in. I'm not going to say I'm a LeBron fan per se now, but to me, that would probably put the nail in the coffin for myself, and I would assume anybody who thinks like I do.
Well, and if you watch this guy's all you have to do is watch this guy's Instagram to know like how much he cares about his kids and how much he's going to the bat for them. This is not a guy who wants to uproot his whole family again. So sure, you could say maybe he gets traded somewhere and his family remains in LA. Like, do you think at this point in his career he wants to be away from his family? Like, no. This is a guy who went on TV and said that he was already the GOAT because of what he had done in Cleveland. He is, for better or worse. I'm not saying that he doesn't want to win titles with the Lakers or that he doesn't want to accomplish anything, because that's also very clearly not true. But he's also someone that is secure in what they have accomplished. And I just, beyond, like, I think if the Lakers named Phil Jackson president of basketball operations or something, that's like the only scenario where you're seeing LeBron demand out, or like something that kind of bizarre, like not only bizarre, but it's someone that LeBron already, like, we know has beef with. Like, beyond that, I just can't see him demanding out.
No, neither can I. I just think it's another member on the negative Laker narrative train that's been going around for, I don't know, eternity.
I'm just gonna say they've made it very easy of late to write negative Lakers stuff. I'm just saying, like, if they would like to make it easier on us to write positive stuff, I would love that. Positive stuff does better for the site. People want to read positive things instead. It's more fun to write positive things. But yeah. They have not.
Well, let's hope we get some positives, man. Free agency's coming up in a couple of weeks. So.
Well, I'll give you a positive because we've been a clown show for the most of the season for sure. But I've kind of been feeling a little better about our front office the last, I don't know, month or so, pretty much since Magic stepped down. I've just kind of seen a few things that I've liked, as far as specifically the fact that they just had like a closed door policy. Like, you don't see the countless leaks that there were throughout the season right now. Even this Lionel Hollins hiring that came up this week was kind of out of left field. At least I didn't see it, and I didn't read anywhere where this was even rumored, and it just kind of came out of left field. Even if you want to go towards the Jason Kidd route, where now he's the highest paid assistant, and I'm not saying I agree with it or anything, but just the fact that these things are coming out and you don't see those leaks a day or two in advance or even a week in advance, it's kind of at least leads me to believe that we're on the right path. And I don't want to say Magic was the problem, but maybe Rob having a little bit more control has benefited us, at least in that way.
Did you burn the ESPN story from your brain from last week already?
Because I wouldn't blame you. Holmes?
Right. Yeah.
Holmes? I mean, but you know what? Honestly, a lot of that was just.
No, I get what you're saying. That was obviously built up over like the course of, I think he said a year it had been that he was working on that, or over a year. And so like, but yes, the constant leaks and finger pointing has slowed down. I am curious. I am going to withhold judgment until I see what they do in free agency. Not just like, that's obviously an easy thing to say, like, if they sign, say, Kawhi or whoever, like, then sure, they're doing great. Like that's not even what I mean. I mean, like, if they strike out, I'm going to be very curious to see the tenor of who starts talking about what, because I know that after Magic stepped down, everybody was real quick to point the finger to whose fault was whose and who did what and whatever. Yeah. And there's a lot of finger pointing going on. And if they don't get a free agent, I'm very, very curious to see if that picks up again. And if we start hearing more about like, oh, well, Kurt Rambis was meddling here, and oh, well, Tim Harris was doing this, and oh, well, like Rob Pelinka is mean to everybody and kind of a weirdo, and like, you're just getting all this constant, like, it wasn't my fault, it was, look at what that guy did.
Yeah. Well, but that's what I'm saying. It's like the negative obviously outweighs the positive as far as the Lakers go. And I think that's usually the constant that you can get, especially if you're a Laker fan. You kind of, the negative will always outweigh the positive. I mean, even today, not today, but yesterday, JaVale went on Spectrum Sportsnet, and he had some positive things to say about the Lakers organization. Mark Cuban of all people came out today and actually defended Jeannie Buss. Mark Cuban, of course, he had to get his Laker bashing in there as well. But even he came out here and some of the stuff that he said, he was saying, Jeannie's smart, I think, not speaking for Jeannie, but the hardest thing for Jeannie has been that, it's family. And so there will be a time when my kids take over or not my kids, and I have to make a decision on how to integrate my family and who takes on what role, and that's not going to be easy. So, some of those types of quotes just kind of give you a little bit insight on how, I don't want to say it's a struggle, because, when you're sitting there making the type of money that some of these people make, it's hard to relate it as a struggle, especially for a regular Joe Schmo like me. But there are actual struggles behind the scenes, and it might not be the struggles that we have, but there's struggles nonetheless. And the fact that Mark Cuban came out and said that speaks volumes for me, at least.
It does, but at the same time, I mean, Mark Cuban, he enjoys the Lakers being down. I mean, he did mention that as well.
I was going to say, I feel like he gives that comment once a year, at least. Yeah. It's always after the Lakers miss the playoffs. He's like, oh, man, I love it when the Lakers suck.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I remember one game specifically when Kobe made a turnaround left-handed three, and he was clapping for Kobe on the sidelines. That's because the Lakers were down like 20 with 2 minutes left. I mean, that's kind of what Mark Cuban does. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's right. Sometimes you have to make decisions about who's going to be the next to take over. And Jeannie, I know she has a tough job to do, but at the same time, I mean, giving Jason Kidd, things like the highest paid assistant coach, having Kurt Rambis or Linda Rambis even, who should be more involved with business, being involved in basketball decisions, those type of things are kind of what irks me and a lot of Laker fans.
Yeah, I mean, I think that those are you just listed basically the questionable decision tree that has existed within the Lakers and in public perception of them for the last little while. And yes, this stuff is not easy, but you still those are still things that you're going to be held to account for. We can say it's easy for us to say these are not easy decisions to make. I fully admit that I'm not going to say I don't want Jeannie Buss's job because it would be nice to be rich. But these are, I am not qualified to make those decisions. And I think that just because decisions are hard to make doesn't mean that we can't evaluate these things as they're happening and hold people to account for, when they make perceived mistakes. And look, we're going to have to see where it goes, because if she's taken a lot of criticism for the people that she's empowered. If it all works out and they get a free agent anyway, it's going to be a lot harder to criticize her for it. If it doesn't work out and this rebuild doesn't work out and it continues to go down in flames, then you're going to see her get more blame than she's ever gotten, because she had the chance to go out and hire one of these experienced executives, or at least try and go get them. It's not even that she didn't hire one. They didn't even try. They just went ahead and basically all but promoted Rob. He didn't get a new title, but essentially he would appear to have more power based on the vacuum that Magic's exit created.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get that portion. But while I have you on, Harrison, I'm going to ask you real quick, and I'll ask you too, Javi. If it came down to Jimmy Butler, Kyrie Irving, and Kemba Walker as the free agent that we signed, you got to pick one. Who are you going with? So Kemba, Kyrie, Jimmy.
I'm going to go Kyrie.
Kyrie?
I agree.
Yeah. See, I would probably go Jimmy and Kemba. Maybe Kemba at a lock with Kyrie. And the only reason I'm saying that is just because Kemba's got he's been a little bit more consistent throughout his career, especially health-wise. He's less of a head case, honestly. And he does a lot of the same things that Kyrie does. I'm not going to say he replicates them exactly, but he does a lot of the same things.
See, Kyrie's game's a little bit, I think it complements LeBron so well, better than anyone. I mean, he can create his own shot. He can make shots from, the outside. He can definitely drive in. He's the type of player that just goes perfect with LeBron. As good as Kemba is, he's more of a high volume shooter, which, I mean, I know Kyrie Irving did have some struggles this past postseason as, the guy, but I feel like he's going to fit better. Jimmy Butler, I feel like he would be a good option as well, just because he's a two-way player and he can hit big buckets. But for me, Kyrie just fits in so well, and they've proven that they can win together in the past.
See, to me, that's the biggest thing is Kemba, you can say that they are somewhat similar players. It's not exactly the same thing, but Kyrie is younger, and we've seen him have success on LeBron James teams, and they can play together. And it's not a seamless fit, I don't think, on the court, but we've at least seen that they can make it work and that they can figure out how to kind of make that stuff happen. I actually like the fit of Jimmy with LeBron more than a lot of people, but I think that we've seen, issues in the locker room, and I know that you can say that about Kyrie as well, but Jimmy, we've seen it in multiple places now, I think 3 different teams. And I also just the mileage and the age, and he's not old by any means, but he is a guy that is, going to, based on how a lot of the guys that played for Thibodeau aged, he might age like fine milk. And so, I think, and then Kemba is also a little bit on the older side. So I think if it was me, I'd lean Kyrie. I'm actually I think that Kyrie in general is overrated, but out of those 3, I would go with him.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think that's the only reason I'd have him as a tie, just because he's a little bit his interactions with LeBron are a little bit more known. We don't really know what Kemba would be, but this week also touched on a very special moment for Laker fans. We had the anniversary of the famous Shaq Kobe Portland lob in the playoffs, which kind of brought me to thinking on where I was when that happened, and I don't know what, if you guys even recall the moment or where you were or whatever the case is, but for me, I mean, that I don't think I can ever forget that. That's a story that I'm going to be sharing with my grandkids, grandkids. I'm probably going to be streaming on whatever YouTube version is like 40, 50 years from now talking about it. But I mean, to me, that's probably one of the most memorable moments in Laker history that I can recall. Honestly, I remember exactly where I was. I was in my mom's house, in the living room, clutching my pillow. We were down significantly, and I just remember, I wasn't giving up hope. But I remember when that lob came down, I was sitting there hugging the seams off of this pillow. And when we took that lead, I jumped up as high as I could, screamed out to the point where my dad was across the house, and he's sitting there yelling, telling me to be quiet, to pipe down. He doesn't know what's going on. But to me, it was a memorable moment. It was an amazing moment. I was just kind of curious if you guys remember that and what you guys were doing when that went down.
That was 2000. I was actually not like a basketball or Lakers fan yet at that point. That did not happen until 2001. So for me, I actually have no idea where I was. The one that recently hit closer to home for me was the Ori shot. We just had, I think, what was it? The 19-year anniversary?
Yeah. It's one of the Sacramento, right?
Yeah, the Sacramento one, whatever, however many years ago that is. I'm not a math major. The Ori one, I remember distinctly with my brothers. We were at a hotel in Palm Springs, took our shirts off, started immediately running around the upper deck screaming. And I'm like surprised that we were not banned from the MC Suites in Palm Springs for life. But so that was the one recently that hit home more for me. But the lob is incredible. I remember the first time I rewatched that game when I was still like a diehard Lakers fan. Like that fourth quarter is incredible to watch. Even if you know the outcome, you still find yourself getting tense. And it's just like, it's almost like a sports movie, the way that they had to come back and battle all the way back like that.
And then you had the whole narrative with Portland, because Portland was every year was trying to kind of overcome the Lakers. And same thing with the Kings. They were that obstacle that they could never overcome in the playoffs. And with Portland and the lob, it almost seemed like they were finally going to make it over that, that mountaintop. And just
it's funny because that like pretty much buried them for until this year that Portland made the Western Conference Finals. That lob literally like buried them for that many years. And for me, I mean, it was something that, I kind of faintly remember as well, just because I was younger. I know my dad was watching the game and I was in the living room. But we all have memorable moments. I mean, from Kobe, that shot against the Suns to put them up 3-1 to Derek Fisher's .4 shot, man. We have so much history here in the Lakers, and I just can't wait for us to start making new memories that we can remember 20 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, for now, all we have is Paul Pierce admitting that he pooped his pants on national television in the 2008 final. That is the best moment for the Lakers of the summer.
Amazing to hear.
Well, that's way better than what he does now, because he usually just poops on camera now. It comes out of his mouth.
Stay woke. This is a nice way for him to distract from being wrong all the time. Is he's like, now he's the I poop my pants guy. So like nobody's gonna remember that he's like wrong with every single take and prediction he gives.
Yeah, well, that's one way to make everybody forget that he said he was better than D-Wade, Or
he's kind of like the basketball Drake now, It's whoever they choose, just got to go for the other team, man.
Honestly, that's not far off. Now that you say it out loud, pretty much, yeah.
Man, Drake just cannot catch a break at this point. Even on the Lakers podcast, we're sitting here bringing right now. He's catching shots everywhere. Oh man, wow! So this was a pretty good little gathering here, man. I appreciate you coming on, Harrison.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to come on anytime. When Greg texted me, I told him I was happy to do it. So I'm like, now that I don't have a day, I used to do Locked On Lakers daily. Now I'm on the Silver Screen and Roll podcast, but that's only once a week. So like, I'm always happy to jump on and give my take somewhere.
Yeah, Anthony has to drag you now to come on the pod, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, maybe we can get Anthony on here at some point as well, or we can get both of you guys on here, and we can make a whole it a whole thing, you know.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie and tell you that's a good idea, but
well, you know, I'm always good. I'm always up for a bad idea, though. I'm always up for a bad.
We're
idea.
Laker fans, so we're used to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I wanted to touch on a little promotion we're going to be running tomorrow for the podcast. So for those of you guys who are listening right now, we are going to be running a little promotion tomorrow once we drop the podcast. I don't want to give too many clues on exactly what it'll be, but we're going to start doing some t-shirt giveaways. So there's a specific shirt that's actually going to be put out through Bulletin Board Material, which is a platform that I run. But we're going to go ahead and do a giveaway on the podcast. So we will go ahead and put that up tomorrow. Make sure you guys participate in it. Just make sure you're following Showtime Forum on Twitter, and we'll announce the winner next week. So that should be fun. Anything else you want to touch on, Harrison, before we get out of here?
No, I'll co-sign your endorsement of Showtime Forum, the Twitter account. It's honestly like one of the best follows for Lakers fans right now. I would also encourage you to follow @LakersSBN on Twitter. That is the site that I run, and follow us on Instagram, listen to the podcast. You know, everywhere we are on pretty much every platform you can be. Subscribe on YouTube, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, Silver Screen and Roll was my go-to, man. Before I jumped on Showtime Forum, you know, I always say
just cut that part. It's still your go-to.
It's still Greg. I'm so sorry, but you know I gotta save face right now.
No, it's okay. You have to say it for. I know Greg's listening to this, so you have to say it just for his sake. I know what you're really thinking.
Yeah, of course. Honestly, I've always said Silver Screen and Roll has always been Showtime Forum's big brother.
All right, we'll take it. I'll take it.
You're gonna have to, because I'm giving it to you.
You know that's gonna be Harrison's next tweet, right? You just made Harrison's next.
Yeah.
Big bro. Rolls Showtime. Big bro.
Go follow Showtime Forum, the little brother of Silver Screen. Our adorable little brother. We pat him on the head sometimes, and
thanks, Ray. Thanks, Ray.
It's all good, man. It's all good, man. I've never been a little brother myself, but I've always wanted to be. You know, I've always been the oldest out of five. So
I'm happy to be your. Well, actually, I don't know how old you are, so maybe younger, older big brother.
I'm 35.
Okay, so you're younger big brother.
There we go. I'll take it. I will take it. For everybody here at the Showtime Forum podcast, and obviously from Harrison Faigen, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. Once again, if you're not following us right now, make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and that's @Showtime Forum. Make sure if you're new to the podcast that you're also subscribing on whatever platform you're listening on. We are on all major platforms. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor. We're on everything you pretty much can get your hands on at this point. So just make sure you listen, drop a review, share, do whatever you got to do. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the time for you listening, even if you don't like it. Just make sure you listen. Put it on play, put the headphones down, do whatever you got to do.
Drive
just make
to
sure
work.
Drive to work, cut your grass. I don't know. Play something at a higher volume. I don't really care. Just make sure you listen. So that's going to wrap it up for us, guys. We appreciate it. We'll catch you guys next week.
But you just take a